Let's take a trip back to 2006. Ian McKellen is 67 years old. Patrick Stewart, 66. Hugh Jackman, 38, but that's not really relevant because in X-Men The Last Stand, these two guys don't quite look their age. Their characters were digitally de-aged in what is widely known to be the first implementation of this kind of technology. The effect is, well, it looks like the first time they were using this technology. But since then, there have been many attempts to level up this illusion, with varying degrees of success. Because even at the highest levels of Hollywood, it is really hard to pull off.
If you look at a person and there's something not quite right with their face, what our lizard brain is telling us is, ooh, that person is sick. I better stay away because I don't want to get sick.
That's Kevin Bailey.
I'm the visual effects supervisor on Here.
He was one of the people tasked with making sure the filmmaking team could pull off an ambitious 53 minutes of de-aging work for Tom Hanks, Robin Wright, Paul Bettany, and Kelly Riley. Or perhaps we should say re-aging, as these extremely famous faces become much younger and much older than they are right now.
People that are critical of de-aging and face replacement, they have every right to be.
We have it all worked out. We have it all worked out.
It's a very, very hard effect to pull off because we look at human faces all day, every day. It's the thing that we recognize the most.
But Kevin and Hollywood have a new filmmaking toolkit, one that makes convincingly changing an actor's age much more achievable. De-aging actors is a painstaking process.
Oftentimes we'll 3D scan an actor and build a full three-dimensional version of their head in the computer. Then from there, you have to build every muscle and how the skin moves when each muscle is activated, and how the blood flows in and out of the skin as it moves, and where the peach fuzz lies. You're trying to recreate reality from the inside out in that approach, and it can yield really impressive results. The problem is, it is so labor intensive. It's like giving birth.
And since all this meticulous face swapping takes place after filming has wrapped,
there's a huge amount of subjectivity and kind of filtering in between what the actor does and what ends up on the screen.
Which is one of the reasons they felt that a face swap in post wasn't going to cut it for Here.
It was clear that the traditional means of de-aging was never going to work at the quantity that we had to address, and certainly not at the quality consistently throughout the production that we needed. And it wasn't until we saw the results of the very first test by this company Metaphysic that we kind of went, gosh, we can do this.
Metaphysic enabled Elvis to perform on America's Got Talent and also made the backup singers look exactly like the judges. It's kind of freaky. They helped Eminem dance with his younger self and brought Ian Holm back from the dead. They're an AI company that's been making waves in Hollywood during a time where there's still some uncertainty and discomfort over the technology. They use sophisticated machine learning to generate faces, but maybe it's better to let Kevin explain.
We want Tom to be 20 and then 25 and then 30 and then 35. So we kind of create these groupings of images that we can feed the AI with and teach it. In the same way that if I gave you a book that thick, 1,000 pages of images of Tom Hanks from all different kinds of places. They might be family photos, they might be publicity stills, movie posters, images from films he's been in. And I said, all right, Ed, you're gonna do nothing for the whole week but flip through the pages of that book and just study Tom Hanks's face, just study his likeness. If at the end of that week, as long as you're a visual person, if I said to you, okay, now close your eyes and imagine Tom Hanks singing Happy Birthday to you in the moonlight. Even though none of those images had shown that, you would still be able to do that very clearly in your head. People confuse it for you feed it 10,000 images and it finds the closest one and it kind of collages it onto a person's face. It's not using a single pixel from any of the data that it's trained on.
So it's more like it's drawing an entirely new face with every frame, as opposed to copying and pasting pieces of other photos onto the same face to assemble a new one.
You won't find two faces that are alike in any of the training material and what ended up in the movie.
This is what machine learning is good at, absorbing a bunch of data, in this case people's faces, and generating something new. But a particularly groundbreaking aspect of this implementation was the speed at which it could work, which changed the production entirely.
It's like really fast. Like it will do its thing in like, milliseconds. That is what we use to do the live on set face swaps. We would have one monitor that had young Tom Hanks on it and one that had him at current day. And that was really powerful.
It allowed for immediate on-set course corrections by the actors themselves, because
every time after Bob Zemeckis called cut, they would look and kind of go like, yeah, I'm shuffling a little bit here. Maybe I need to stand up more straight to sell the sort of like physicality illusion. Or, ooh, I was overacting my youth in that take. Let's dial that back a bit. Let's do another take. And so it really brought the actor into the conversation and allowed them to use it as a tool.
It also helped them steer away from a situation where an actor has been made to look young, but their physicality doesn't feel young. Like De Niro's character here in The Irishman. He's supposed to be a rugged and tough mobster here, and he just looks like my grandfather trying to kick someone while they're down. Shout out to this guy for selling it, though.
No! I'm not afraid! No!
And I mean no disrespect to the absolute powerhouse of an actor that Robert De Niro is. Obviously, this kind of thing just couldn't be addressed because the de-aging was happening solely at the end of the pipeline.
It's very easy to look at a 67-year-old acting young and think, God, they look so young. But then if you were to put a 20-year-old face on them, they would look like they were a 20-year-old's face on a 40-year-old body, right? And it's just like very lizard brain reaction. It's something deep inside of us that tells us that something isn't quite right.
If you look closely, you can see that the real-time de-aging works on the face, but it leaves the ears and the neck untouched. That didn't really matter, because the other benefits of the real-time feed was that the editors could use the half-baked footage to assemble early drafts of the film.
So it was incredible walking away from set with like every shot that was going to be a face swap shot. There was already a very rudimentary version, but pretty convincing version of it already done. It was just a little soft. And then in post-production, we used very similar AI tools, but much, much higher fidelity. So instead of doing, a face swap in 10 milliseconds, it'll take a few minutes. But that way we can get like the real film quality, high fidelity results out of it.
When it comes to making people older, I had to ask Kevin about this scene because I found it so moving.
And the performances are so good, especially Paul Bettany.
Rose, she loved having you all around her. She loved this day. She loved cooking for you. She lived for you. And for you, Dad.
I was like, oh my God, I really felt it. And I imagine that's one of the scenes where you guys had to age him up a little bit.
That scene actually was almost purely prosthetics and makeup.
But with other scenes in the film, they were able to marry the physical prosthetics and digital makeup to create something that wouldn't have been possible with either alone.
Robin has never been old before, so we couldn't train these models on family photos of her at 85. But what we could do is we could use other AI-driven tools and workflows to feed images of her from set and say, hey, give me a version of this with better skin translucency.
Or one that wrinkles around the nose in a way that feels more like stretching skin and less like a flexible prosthetic.
And so what we ended up doing is employing the same tools that we use for de-aging and helping them for up-aging.
And this mixing of technology is what helped sell so much of the film.
People kind of talk about AI dehumanizing certain things, and in this case, I think it really humanized the whole process because it took these people with decades of experience and allowed them to use it in order to better the film. What we're doing now, it's cutting edge. In the future, it's going to be standard fare.